To solve a quadratic equation, we must first make sure that it is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is the leading coefficient and helps us choose which method we're going to use in order to solve the equation. The method that I'm going to show you here is called the x in the box, turning a sum into a product. That's what factoring is. Well, here first we're going to look at a. Our leading coefficient is 3. That means that a is not 1. That's why we have to use the x in the box. The x in the box also works when a equals 1, but it's a lot more work than you need to do when a equals 1. So first we have our x, very similar to the previous video where we did the x plus grouping. Now we're doing the x plus the box. In the top of this x, whatever we write on the sides has to multiply to give me the top portion, and whatever we write on the sides has to add or subtract to give me the bottom portion. And that's how the x works. So first we're going to multiply ax squared times c, so 3x squared times negative 32, and that gives me negative 96x squared. And then in the bottom of the x, we're going to put our middle term, negative 20x. To use the box or the area model, we're going to change our middle term, the negative 20x, into two separate terms that allow us to find the base and the height, the dimensions of this box, this rectangle. So in the very first box, we keep ax squared, we keep the first term of the trinomial that we're trying to factor, and we keep the last term. It's just the negative 20x that's going to be split into two separate terms. And those terms are going to be found over here. Sometimes it helps to find out what are all the factors of 96 so that I could see what would match up to give me a negative 20x. And I'm going to do that now. We can see now that there are actually two options that might work. 4 and 24 might get us 20, 8 and 12 might get us 20. Now we have to check our signs. Whatever is being put here has to multiply to give me a negative, which means one of them can be negative, one of them can be positive. For 8 and 12 to work, they would both have to be negative. So our numbers, our terms, our factors have to be 4 and 24. It's going to be 4x and 24x, but in order for us to add to get a negative 20, the bigger number needs to be 20. And I'm going to put plus in front of that 4x, just to remind us it's a positive. All right, 4x times negative 24x, that is negative 96x squared, and 4x plus a negative 24x is indeed negative 20x. These are my new terms for my area model. 4x, 24x. It does not matter where you place them, you'll still get the correct answer. Now, I need to know what is my base and what is my height. Well, whatever I put here and here needs to multiply to get the inner squares. It's like doing a Punnett square from biology, but going backwards. So, 3x times x gives me 3x squared. But then I look over here and I say, oh, 3x doesn't go into 4x. It has to go into everything that is in its row or column. So instead, I'm going to put the 3 here. 3x times x, still 3x squared. 3x does go into 24x, and x does go into 4x. So now, 3x times something is going to give me 24x. That is 8. And then x times something is going to give me 4x. That is 4. Test it and see. Oh, I forgot my negative. No wonder. I was like, now that's not working out. All right, do not forget your negatives. And that's why we test it to make sure that, okay, negative 8 times 4 gives me negative 32. Otherwise, 8 and 4 would not have given me negative 32. All right, your base, which I like to put it on the top, but it's still a base. Your base and your height are the dimensions of this area model of this rectangle. And those are your factors. So write them as your factors. 3x, and that's a positive 4, so we put plus 4, times x minus 8 is equal to 0. You are done factoring, but you still need to solve. When we make it equal to 0, we use a zero product property. If a times b equals 0, then a equals 0 and or b equals 0. Make this factor equal to 0. 3x plus 4 equals 0. Subtract 4 on both sides. 3x equals negative 4. Divide by 3. Running out of room here again. And x equals negative 4/3. Here, x minus 8 is equal to 0. Add 8 on both sides. X is equal to 8. These are my two solutions. If you want to check to make sure that you got the correct solutions, plug them in for x into the calculator. Be sure to put parentheses around them each time, and then you can see if you correctly factored. This is the x in the box, which we like to use when a does not equal 1, but it works for any time you're factoring regardless of what a is.